Elijah. Hey guys, today I would like to introduce you to a person. Introduce you to someone who has a story to tell. And I'm actually going to let him tell you why he's here, what this story actually is. But he got to experience something. He's a stonemason in the time of King Ahab. And he got to experience something that none of us will ever get to experience. But for some reason, this mountaintop experience has stayed with him. And I'll let him tell you why. But for us today, as Christian college students, as pastoral majors for the majority, we may have had a mountaintop experience in our life. And sometimes we write those off. And I just want to challenge us as we listen to this story and as we see the background inside this, that sometimes mountaintop experiences are more than just that. Hey guys, like he said, I'm a stonemason from the time of King Ahab. And King Ahab, I mean, he's this great guy. But see, I had this experience in my life that I cannot help but sharing. It's this phenomenal time that I had, but it was also a little bit scary. See, working for the king on a special assignment, it comes with certain stresses, I guess you'd say. There's some stress that's developed for working for the king, but this story could not fall through the cracks. It was something that I have to share. But see, before my life was changed, like I said, it was in the time of King Ahab. And man, he was the guy. He brought back Baal worship for us. We got Asherah poles. He married that stone-cold fox Jezebel. Yeah, he was the man. We loved that guy. Goodness gracious, he had it going on. We loved our king. And he was the man. Well, everybody in the kingdom was happy. Well, except for this one guy. I mean, he always kind of had this thing. He was this Tishbite, right? Elijah was his name. Man, this guy, and I guess all of the prophets for Yahweh, for the most part, were like this, kind of just sticks in the mud. Told us that there was only one God to worship, and why not? Why not go to Baal? Why not go to Asherah? Like, we were perfectly content, but these people, for some reason, man, he was just stuck. He was stuck, and he wouldn't worship with us in what we were doing. But see, something was wrong with Elijah. He had this boldness about him that he didn't care who he was in front of or who he was speaking to. He just spoke his mind. But we were sure that this guy was crazy. We were sure that this guy was loony, especially whenever, like I said, I was on assignment for the king, and I was inside the palace there, and I was working, and Elijah walks in. And he starts telling this king that because of his actions, there was going to be a drought for the next 3 years, right? Well, needless to say, the king didn't appreciate this, and what gave Elijah the right to call out our king? Man, I was getting a little bit upset. We should kill this guy. What gave him the right to go and do this? Well, we don't know that. We don't know why he had the right to go and speak. But he did. And see, the king, if he would have had his way, would have killed Elijah right on the spot, but he fled. He ran away scared. And you know where? We don't know where he went. We later found out that he went to the Kerith ravine. But man, this guy was scared. He was scared to death. He just left. He up and left, and later we found out that ravens fed him, and that he drank from this brook. And we don't know why or how. But you know the worst thing about this guy? The worst thing about this guy, Elijah, was he was a freeloader. Man, nothing gets me more worked up than a mooch. And then on top of that, he went to a widow and her son. And not even a rich person. He went to that part of town and mooched off this widow. Somehow they didn't run out of food. I don't know how. And it was even said that in this time that this son died. And Elijah somehow prayed and raised him up from the dead. What a weirdo. What a weird guy. I mean, if you're not getting the picture, we didn't like this guy. We didn't like what he was doing. We didn't like what he was about. He was different than us. He was different. But see, Something must have happened to him whenever he raised that guy from the dead. I don't know how to explain it, but he got some boldness once again. And he decided after 3 years, it's time to go back to the kingdom, and I'm going to tell this king once again what he did wrong. This is going to be a good time. And he comes rolling in like he owns the place, and I saw him once again coming. And this moment was one for Elijah of just confusion for me. But I was stuck. This man is crazy. He's going to get killed. His own friend Obadiah, who was the king's first-hand man, told him, "You're going to die. He's been looking for you everywhere. He couldn't find you. If he could have, you would be dead now." But instead, Elijah just decides, you know what, it's time. I'm going to go up there anyway. I'm going to go up to the king and I'm going to talk to him. And at that moment, I wondered if there's something different about this guy. Is there a driving force behind this man, behind this guy that's allowing him to have these crazy thoughts? King Ahab, he looked down. He looked down on him and said, "Is that you, the troubler of Israel?" And almost quite calm and collected, almost too calm, Elijah stood for a moment, as if to ponder, should I run away? I've been found out. It's true. He knows who I am. It hasn't been long enough. Or he could have been standing there thinking, man, my purpose goes so far beyond this. I have a purpose that no man can flee, that there's no reason to flee from. And confidently this booming voice rang out. "I have made no trouble for Israel. But no, king, it is you who have brought this. And it is your family's doing that have brought this tragedy upon the people of Israel. And this famine is your fault, king." Man, this was some bold stuff. This was some... He was dead for sure. This is a dead man who was speaking to the king in such a way. But then, as if that's not enough, he chose in that moment to ask something of the king. After calling out the king, he said, "God, hey, let's get all of the prophets of Baal together, all 450 of them that are left, and let's take them to Mount Carmel." And you know what? Something crazy is going to happen there. And so for some reason, the king decided to go along with this loony, right? And he said, "Okay, all the people in the kingdom, we've got to go." Man, you know what? In my life, I was busy. I had stuff going on. I had this project I was working on. I don't want to go to this mountain and follow the loony. I want to finish my project because, you know, kings get nagging about, oh, if it's wrong, they're going to kill you and whatever else. I mean, I didn't want to mess this project up. I couldn't. But kings want what kings get. Kings get what kings want. So we went to Mount Carmel. We went there. And Elijah addressed the crowd. And this is when I knew something miraculous was about to happen. And he said, "How long will you waver between these two opinions?" And he shrieked this, and his voice carried out. "If Yahweh is God, then follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him." And there was almost a distaste in his mouth from even having the idea that Baal could have been God. He almost had this weird sense of laughter after saying, if Baal is God, then follow him. And now we're about to really get to the story because Elijah's about to do some incredible things, and he decided that there was going to be a test. And he told all the Baal worshippers, "You guys build your altar over here, you guys cut up a bull, put it on top of there, don't light it. I'll do the same thing over here. I won't light it. Don't put anything in there that could flame it. Don't do anything. And whichever one has divine intervention, that will be the true God. That will be the God that is real. And we will all know it." So, those 450 Baal worshippers build their altar. And they build it up, and they set it there. And they begin to cry out to my God. To the God that I had worshipped, to the God that I had sacrificed to. And they cried out to him. And nothing. And nothing happened. And I was beginning to wonder, and I was beginning to think something might be weird. And then noonday came, and they were crying out louder and louder still. And nothing. And then, on top of that, to make matters worse, the loony started making fun of us. He started taunting us. He said, "Maybe he's busy, right? Maybe you guys aren't crying out loud enough. Maybe there's something. Maybe he's just deep in sleep, deep in thought." And I was starting to wonder what was going on. Where was my God that I had worshipped? Where was the God that I had sacrificed to? Midday was almost upon us, and the Baal prophets, they were trying to lead us as Israelites. They're trying to show us how to get this God to show up. And they began to cut themselves because they thought, well, you know what, if I'm hurting, then my God will feel this hurt, and then maybe he will be able to be a part of this. Maybe. Well, sure enough, midday came, and nothing happened, and their shrieks got louder and louder, and finally Elijah said, I'm done. Who are the loonies now? And I started to see it. Man, what I had done was crazy. This worship that I had performed previously, some pretty crazy stuff. But then, Elijah did something curious to us. He drew us near to him. He drew us near to what he would have, so that he could pick up these 12 stones, and he set them up, and he explained that they were the 12 tribes of Israel to us. And he set them there, then he cut up the bull, and he was ready to perform this thing. Then he started playing in the dirt. We're like, what is it? The loony's at it again. He's digging this moat, this trench around this, and we're all wondering what in the world is wrong with him. But see, we were near enough to know he hadn't cheated. He had brought us near, and we had all watched him very closely. I don't want this crazy guy doing something different to his, so that his catches on fire. So you know what he did then? He asked for 4 jars of water. 4 jars of water, and we're like, wow, I guess he's thirsty. He pours them on top of his altar. Then 3 more times he has us go get more jars, and we pour them on top of the altar. The moat is overflowing, the water is everywhere, and he's sitting there. And something amazing is about to happen. He begins to pray. And this is a prayer that I hope that I never forget. And he said, "O Yahweh, God of Abraham and Isaac, let it be known that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, O Yahweh, answer me, so that these people will know that you, O Yahweh, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." This prayer that rang out at that moment, as surely as I stand here before you today, fire fell from heaven. It came down and it absorbed all of this water. The altar was gone. The stones were gone. Everything. But I'll tell you what, that's not the only thing that fell that day. In that moment, all of us, we fell. We fell down because we knew that this God that he had talked to us about, he was real. This was the God. This was the God that would intervene in my life if I called upon him later. He was the true God. He was real. And you know what else fell on that day? Later that day, for the first time in 3 years, rain fell. Rain fell on our land, and Elijah went up to the mountain, and he went up there, and he prayed to God, and he said, "Bring this rain, Father." And sure enough, the rain came, and the land, the Israelites' people, the land became fertile again. You know, and beyond that, beyond all of that, as if that wasn't enough, there was a fire that was lit in my heart that day. There was a fire in my own soul that was lit, and that's why I'm here before you today, because I can't contain it. In the same way that Elijah prayed, despite these people, we hated him, and he prayed for me, so that these people will know, "Oh Yahweh, that you are God." He cared about me. This wasn't about him, but rather, this was about God. The boldness to go in front of the king was not for his own honor or praise, but rather for God. It was for him. All of this was for God. You know, and I can never go back to my mountaintop experience. I can never go back up on Mount Carmel and reenact this. But at the same time, I don't have to. Because I can come before you today and I can proclaim it. If time would allow, I would go back into my character and I would show you now, as Isaac in front of you again, with this last thing. Guys, what this stonemason didn't understand, what this stonemason didn't get to grasp, was the fact that Christ, the cross, commands us to do the same thing. commands us to pray for those that we don't like, and Paul commands us with the boldness that Elijah had, that we are to go out into all the world and do the same. Guys, this is our call. Fire fell. People fell. Rain fell. If the fire's been lit in your life, it's time to look around and see if people are falling down in worship to Yahweh behind you. And if they're not, why? Do you have the boldness that it takes to lead others in that act of worship? And then beyond that, there are those who are working in the kingdom alongside you. While it does tell us that the harvest is many and the workers are few, there are workers who are bringing the rain into the world today. There are those who are bringing the rain. Let's go be a part of it. Because God wants everyone, not just for the Jew, but for the Gentile alike. For everyone. God wants everyone's worship. Go be a part of it for His glory.